With fall finally here, cooler temperatures mean sweaters, spice lattes, and of course, Halloween adventure. For today's weekend preview, we have a special guest joining us in studio, Bonaventure Historical Society's treasurer and historian, Bob Alhouse, to tell us about their fall tours tomorrow. So Bob, for people who don't know about Bonaventure, can you tell us what makes it so special?
Bonaventure is a Victorian-era garden cemetery. It's over 200 years old if you count the oldest burials there. It's actually been a cemetery owned by the city for 120 years now.
Wow.
There are all kinds of impressive monuments, huge mausoleums.
Mm-hmm.
The tree canopy makes it real special because we have
Yes.
hundreds of years old live oaks there that create a nice canopy that you can walk under. It's just a beautiful place, sprawling, all kinds of different monuments, interesting people. It's just cool.
It is. I actually took the tours 2 years ago and I still remember the atmosphere in Bonaventure and I loved it. So can you tell us more about the atmosphere there and why it's so special?
It just is. I mean, I can't think of anything specific other than just the whole thing put together makes it a special place. It's just cool. I mean,
So
I can't.
yeah, it is. So you said that you work with the trees and conserving it. Can you tell us about your work and how y'all conserve Bonaventure and its history?
Well, the Bonaventure Historical Society has been around for about 30 years, and our mission is basically twofold: education and preservation. The city does the best they can with the staff and the budget that they have, but it's not enough. So we raise money, and when things need to be preserved, planted, repaired, we step in with money. Over the past 3 years, we've spent probably $15,000 replacing trees. We're still trying to catch up from Matthew. We lost like 160 trees during Matthew. We lost another dozen or so trees this year due to disease, lightning, just general problems. And then with Helene that just came by, we lost another 20 trees.
Oh no.
And each tree, while we can't replace the huge tree that it is, we spend $350, $450 a piece to replace them so that sometime in the future, that canopy will still be in place. We're not going to live to see the results, but we're taking care of the people that'll be there 50 years from now.
Right, that's amazing. And I love that y'all take care of the trees. I loved seeing the trees at Bonaventure when I was there. And I still remember also one of the historical people there, and it's Little Gracie. So can you tell
Right.
us about Little Gracie?
Little Gracie is the most visited grave in Bonaventure by far. She was a precocious little girl. Her father ran an inn downtown. She died unexpectedly Easter 1899. Fortunately, her father had taken her to a photographer basically the week before she died, which in the 1880s, that wasn't a usual thing. After she died, he took the photograph to John Walls, who now has probably close to 100 monuments at Bonaventure Cemetery. He carved the monument to Little Gracie in the cemetery from that photograph. Later, is alleged to have said that he thought it was among his best work, the most lifelike he had ever done.
Right.
Oh, a couple years after she died, her parents were heartbroken. They left to go back north. And little Gracie's been by herself in Bonaventure for 135 years now.
Wow.
She was adopted by the city of Savannah. Last story I heard, there were 3,000 people at her funeral, although I'll tell you that every time I hear that story, the number climbs a little bit, so we don't know for sure, but
amazing.
she was a popular girl. Legend has it that if you rubbed her nose, it brought you good luck.
Ooh.
Over the course of a century, her nose disappeared. Now there's discussion as to whether it was from people rubbing her nose, or some people say that someone went in there with a rock and broke it off. Either way, her nose disappeared. We stepped in a while back as the Historical Society and we repaired her nose, and we put a fence around her plot to keep
Right.
people out.
Nice.
Because all of those plots are private property. You're really not supposed to be going into the plots. Since the fence was put in and people could no longer rub her nose, the legend switched, as I guess legends are allowed to do.
Right.
The legend became that if you leave money or toys for Gracie, then you're brought good luck. So people throw money in her plot, children leave toys in her plot.
Nice.
I go out there about once a week and collect all the money. We use the money to maintain her plot. And I collect the toys and I bring them to the visitor center so that when parents come in with their little kids and hear that story and are sad because they don't have a toy to leave her, I give them one of
That's
those.
awesome.
So they can take
Yeah.
it back. There's a little Elsa doll, which is what the girls always pick, that I've taken off of Gracie's grave 10 or 11 times. Girl goes and puts it on the grave. I go get it back and put it back on the desk.
That's awesome.
Next little girl takes it.
That's awesome.
But she's by far the most visited grave in the cemetery.
Who are some other notable historical people at Bonaventure?
Probably, now this is subjective because if you ask 10 people, you're going to get 10 different answers. I think the most famous person buried at Bonaventure is probably Johnny Mercer, who was a noted songwriter, wrote 1,800 songs, won 4 Academy Awards, nominated for, I believe, 18 Academy Awards. The interesting thing about his plot is there are, I believe, 8 people buried in it.
Wow.
And on 6 of them, it has lyrics to his songs on their
Awesome.
slabs.
Yeah.
Like his mother's buried in there, and hers says, "My mama done told me," which is a lyric for one of his songs.
Right.
His wife is buried right next to him. Hers says, "You must have been a beautiful baby."
Oh.
There's also a bench in his plot that has all of the songs he was nominated for Academy Awards for engraved in it.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Probably, my opinion, the most eccentric in the cemetery, and this is one where if you ask 20 people, you're going to get 20 different answers. I think it's probably Conrad Aiken,
Oh.
who was
Okay, yeah.
Pulitzer Prize winner in poetry, was Poet Laureate of the United States, had a somewhat tragic upbringing. His parents were a murder-suicide. He and his wife are buried underneath a bench in their plot that he had installed so that his friends could come and have martinis with him after he was gone.
Wow.
His friends are all gone now, but the bench is still there. Other famous ones, I mean, you've got the Tatnalls, who were the plantation owners back in the late 18th and early 19th century. They have their family plot is basically the genesis of the whole cemetery. I mean, that's what started it. Then it became a private cemetery. Then the city bought it, but it all stemmed from the Tatnall family.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing.
Telfairs, they're well known in Savannah. I mean, there's not very many of them left around because most of them didn't have kids. But the Telfair Museum, Telfair Square, that's all them.
Cool.
The Jones boys, Noble Jones, Wimberly Jones.
So lots of historical people.
Oh, yeah.
Full of
Yeah.
history in Bonaventure.
I'm actually, as the historian, I'm working on a project right now trying to identify and document every veteran buried in Bonaventure Cemetery.
That's amazing.
And the last count I had, there were like 5 Revolutionary War veterans through Afghanistan. But
Wow.
a lot of historical, bunch of War of 1812 guys. Of course, many, many, many Civil War guys, including what surprised me a little bit. There's probably 450 Civil War vets that I've identified so far. 25 of them are Union veterans
Wow.
who are buried in Bonaventure.
Wow.
But
that's
we are
amazing.
chock full of important people.
Right. I love history, so I've been enjoying this interview. Thank you so much for joining us, Bob. And if you want to let our viewers know what could they expect from the tour, what else can they bring, what they need to look out for.
What we are doing is started out as just a general fundraiser to raise money for the Bonaventure Historical Society. Then Helene hit. We've lost about 20 trees just from Helene, so we transitioned the tour into a fundraiser to help replace some of the trees for Helene. We've got 8 characters out there in costume who are interpreting for the people that are buried behind them.
Wow.
We've got John Walls, the sculptor I was talking about earlier. Margaret Telfair from the notorious Telfair family, not
Right.
notorious, the well-known Telfair family. I'm portraying Josiah Tatnall, who owned the plantation
Ooh.
for 10, 15 years. We've got someone playing Johnny Mercer, of course.
Nice.
We have an actress playing a friend of the family of little Gracie.
Oh,
So
wow,
telling
yeah.
Gracie's story from the point of view of
Right.
a friend of the
That's
family.
awesome.
Henry Roots Jackson. We have a gravedigger
Ooh.
who's out there
Okay.
talking about safety coffins, and there's the bell that was supposed to be rung if someone got buried
Right.
alive. And there's
Wow.
one more who I can't think of right now.
That's amazing. It's going to be a very interactive tour.
Oh, yeah,
then. Yeah,
yeah.
that's awesome. Well,
And,
thank you so much. Yeah.
It's for going. It's going to raise money for the trees. I'm the treasurer, so I think in terms of trees.
Mm-hmm.
Last night the tour was very successful. We had about 26 people, and
Good.
when
That's
it was all
awesome.
done, and I was counting up the money, I thought, okay, this is 4 trees.
Mm-hmm.
People need to bring. The tour Sunday will be in the afternoon. Bring some water, probably bring some bug spray. And if you can't participate in the tour, you can go to bonaventurehistorical.org, and we will certainly accept your donations to help us fix the trees, repair monuments, whatever needs to be done.
And I believe you also have an interactive tour online on your website of the Bonaventure.
We have an app
Right. Yes.
that people can download that will take them through the cemetery
Cool,
and tell
that's
them a lot
awesome.
of the stories.
Awesome. Thank you so much again for joining us, Bob.
You're quite welcome.
Thank you. And if you want to buy tickets for the fall tour, simply learn more about the historical cemetery, just go to our website, wsav.com/Bonaventure.